There's a type of person who does everything right, gets the degree, lands the job, shows up every day, and still feels like they're living someone else's life. If that sounds familiar, this isn't about burnout. This isn't about the wrong company. This is about something much older, something that was already yours before the job ever existed. Think about the person who is endlessly organized. Color-coded calendars, detailed plans, every meeting scheduled with a 10-minute buffer. People assume they love structure, and maybe they do. But often, beneath that order is something quieter, a need for predictability in a world that feels unpredictable to them. That same person, when placed in a chaotic startup environment where goals shift weekly and no one has a defined role, doesn't just feel inconvenienced. They feel unsafe. Not because the job is bad, but because the environment conflicts with something wired into how they process the world. And here's the part most people miss. They often don't know why they're struggling. They just know they are. Then there's the person who thrives in that exact same chaos, who feels most alive when nothing is fully settled, who gets energy from ambiguity and novelty. Put them in a rigid, process-heavy role, same title, same pay, and within months, they're watching the clock. Not because they're lazy, but because structure, for them, feels like a cage. These aren't quirks. These are personality patterns, and they run deep. That's not weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's information. Information that most people were never taught to read about themselves. People high in what psychologists call agreeableness, people who are naturally warm, accommodating, conflict avoidant, often drift toward roles that let them help. Teachers, nurses, counselors, social workers. And many of them genuinely love what they do. But some of them ended up there not because it was a choice, but because saying yes felt safer than saying no. Because being needed felt like belonging. The career wasn't chosen, it was accepted. And then one day, they realize they've spent years taking care of everyone else's needs in a professional context, the same way they did in every personal relationship they've ever had. It feels familiar. It also feels exhausting. That's not coincidence. That's conditioning wearing a career title.
And here's where it gets interesting. Most people think career dissatisfaction is about the wrong industry, or the wrong company, or the wrong manager. And sometimes it is. But often, the real mismatch is much earlier than that. It's not about skill. It's about identity. Highly introverted people, for example, don't just prefer quieter environments. They process information more deeply, more internally. They tend to make fewer but more considered decisions. In environments that reward speed, visibility, and constant verbal output, they look slow. They look disengaged. They get overlooked for promotions, not because they're less capable, but because the system was designed around a different type of mind. So they doubt themselves. They wonder if they're just not cut out for leadership. They try to perform extroversion, attend more events, talk more in meetings, project more energy, and they come home depleted. Not because growth is wrong, but because they were performing a personality rather than working from their own. It's not about confidence, it's about fit. And fit is something most career advice never addresses. The mismatch between who you are and where you work doesn't announce itself. It shows up slowly, as fatigue, as restlessness, as the Sunday dread that people joke about but quietly carry for years. Personality isn't destiny, but it is a lens. And when you understand the lens you're looking through, when you see how your need for stability, or your sensitivity to conflict, or your hunger for meaning shapes what you move toward and what you avoid, the pattern becomes visible. The person who has changed jobs 4 times in 3 years isn't unstable. They might just be someone with high openness, looking for stimulation they haven't been able to name yet. The person who has stayed in the same role for a decade, quietly competent, never self-promoting, they
might not be someone without ambition. They might be someone who found a rare environment that actually fits who they are. There's no universal right answer. There's only the version of work that asks you to spend less energy pretending. Once you see that pattern, you can't unsee it. And that awareness, just that, changes how you read yourself. If this explains something for you, there's more to uncover. Understanding yourself is the beginning of everything.